What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, it's finally here. After over 20 years since the last installment and 2 years since its announcement, Streets of Rage 4 is finally here, and I'm here to talk about it with you guys. Where do I even begin with this game, man? It looks great, it plays great, the soundtrack is awesome. It's a little harder than I thought it would be, and the reason for that is they've removed some abilities that you previously had in Streets of Rage 3, such as running. Although some characters can run, some can dash, but they've completely removed like the rolling to the side. If you're not careful, you can get your ass whooped, man. Like, I'm serious. Like, I don't from what I've noticed, there isn't really any iframes except for when you do your special. In PS4 it's triangle when you do your special attack, and when you're throwing someone. Before it would be, if with some characters, if you're using your triangle, like special forward, you were like completely invincible. That's not the case anymore. I also, like, if you can get tossed around and they can juggle you while in the air while you're taking damage, so you got to be careful about that. Now I've played this series like for as long as I can remember, like way back in the late 90s. I was around like 5 or 6 years old, and I remember when my dad first brought us the Sega Genesis, and the game console itself had around 30 games in it, and Streets of Rage was one of them, the first one to be exact. We played the shit out of that game. I'm serious. Like, I remember we even used to go to my grandma's, and they also had a Sega Genesis there, so we would play that game all the time. And the funny thing is, we actually used to call it Street Fighter. And I remember going through the menu. Like, I was like 5 or 6, so I was like kind of. I wasn't much of a reader. I remember when we would go into the menu of the games, you would have like Streets of Rage, and then Rambo and Flicky and whatever. And when you would keep on scrolling down, like it would, the numbers would go all the way up to, let's say, 100, even though there were only 30 games. So they would kind of like duplicate themselves, but they would go under other names. So it would be Streets of Rage and then Bare Knuckle. So I was like, what is Bare Knuckle? Like, why is it named Bare Knuckle? Like, I had no idea that was the name of the game in the Japanese region. For as long as I remember, I played Streets of Rage 1 for a very long time. Years later, I got a hold of a disc with a bunch of SNES games or NES games for the PS1, and on that disc was the version for the SNES of Streets of Rage 2. On that disc there was a version, like the Nintendo version, I think the SNES version of Streets of Rage 2. Years later, I played Streets of Rage 3 on the emulator. Some years later, I got a hold of every Streets of Rage fan is fantasy, basically, which was the Streets of Rage remake that came out in 2011, and that was just jaw-dropping. That remake was and still is amazing. Like, if you're a fan of beat 'em ups, like not even just Streets of Rage, if you're a fan of beat 'em ups and you haven't played Streets of Rage, especially the remake, then you stop this video right now and go play that game and buy Streets of Rage 4, because it is such a fun time. There isn't really much to say about the plot. It's 10 years later after the events of Streets of Rage 3. It's pretty simplistic. You know how the Streets of Rage plots basically go. The crime syndicate is wreaking havoc, and you basically gotta take him down. Basically, this time we're going head to head against Mr. X, the deceased Mr. X's children, his twin children, Mr. Y and Miss Y. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Axel Stone and Blaze Fielding are back in action, so is Adam Hunter, along with Cherry, who is Adam's daughter, and Floyd, who is an apprentice of Dr. Zan, the cyborg from Streets of Rage 3. Now, you can argue that basically the whole cast is back, but you basically unlock them as you progress through the game, and every time you finish a stage, you fill in the meter. And in certain points of this meter, you will unlock first the Streets of Rage 1 characters, Adam, Blaze, and then Axel, and then Streets of Rage 2 characters, and so on and so forth. Now, I did my first run with Axel on normal difficulty, played through the whole game, tried out some of the characters here and there. Basically, Axel and Blaze are kind of the well-rounded characters. The same kind of goes for Adam. Adam is a bit more of a hard hitter. They've removed the running ability for Axel and Blaze and all the other characters. Cherry is the only one that I've tried that can run. Adam has kind of a dash move thing that he can do. Now there are some things that function differently a bit, and now you can juggle enemies. If you can catch them midair, you can basically keep on juggling them and causing more damage. Once you use your special attack, a portion of your health will decrease, and it'll go into this kind of like green section. And in order to, you have to damage enemies in order to refill that lost health, that potential health. And if you receive damage, then you lose that potential health. And guess what? Now there's a dedicated pickup button, and the punching, the attack button, they're both separate. So you won't find yourself in the middle of a brawl, and then suddenly you go into this state where you're just picking up a knife and then a pipe and then a knife and then a pipe, and then you get your ass whooped. Now, you can stand over a knife or a pipe or an item or whatever and keep on fighting, and then when you want to pick up that item, you use the dedicated button to pick up that item. So that was a bit of an annoyance back in the older installments of the series, and even in the remake, but that's not the case anymore. Some enemies have, I'm not sure what to call it, they go into this phase where they kind of like flash in white, and once they flash, they will not flinch when you punch them. So for example, you remember the fat guys, what were they called? Butterbean or something? Big Ben? Yeah, Big Ben, I think. Like once he does his flaming rush move, when he runs and he shoots fire from his mouth, like if you try to catch him by damaging him or whatever from the back, like he will not be phased. He will keep on doing his attack. There are some sections where I just got like extremely punished for not, let's say, crowd controlling properly. And the thing is, like, if you get damaged and you get launched into the air and another enemy is doing their attack, you can get damaged. Like you are not invincible while being launched into the air. In fact, you're more vulnerable than ever. So yeah, there is some element of like, it's a little more challenging in that aspect, but it also means that it's more fun and it's more rewarding, and it's just so satisfying to just pummel and beat down the enemies. Unfortunately, on my first run, I didn't really use weapons as much, so I kind of got myself into a few jams here and there. And the weapons here are very powerful, so make sure to take advantage of that. Now, you'll fight through urban areas, through bars, sewers, all the way to upscale museums, a sauna, and even an airplane. The music, I found myself like tapping to the music and headbanging a bit. The music is pretty good. Like I need to buy the soundtrack of this game, seriously. There's also an arcade mode where you basically go through the whole game in one go, with one life, I believe. And there's a battle mode, of course, the versus mode and there is also a boss rush mode, and there's a co-op mode. I haven't tried playing co-op at all, but from what I remember seeing from the videos, that you could go up to 4 players, I believe, if not more. Now I finished the game in around in 2 hours and a half, give or take. So there are different characters for some for a little variety in play styles. So it's good to switch up between them. You can switch up between them, like going through each stage in story mode. You can basically, like, if you're feeling up for it, you can switch a character, or maybe you feel like playing Axel, and then the next stage you want to play Adam, and the one after that you want to play, for example, Streets of Rage 2 Max Thunder or something. There are many different types of enemies, lots of recurring enemies, and also a set of new ones, some of which have different types of stances and attacks and strategies in order to keep you on your toes, about your wits, and on your feet. So you better be careful once you start swinging, because these enemies, they can kick your butt if you're not careful. How does it hold up against the others? Pretty well. It's a fun time. You're gonna like it. Once you go into the art gallery, you can get a little peek of, I guess, the different builds that they had planned out throughout the development of the game. And you could see that they were gonna have certain enemies in the game, but it seems that they just decided to not include them, such as Abadidi, the wrestler, and what was his name? Jack the Ripper or something? The dude with the knife who goes after he like stabs you. Would I recommend this game? Hell yeah, man. Pick it up. It's great. If you love beat 'em ups, you'll definitely love this. If you're a fan of the Streets of Rage series, this is a must buy for you. Alright guys, so that pretty much does it. Thank you for checking out the video, and we hope to see you in the next one. If you like the video, please share and subscribe. And we have some fun stuff planned up for the future, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you all soon. Bye bye. Take care. Peace.